guys need to check. I'm checking LinkedIn. I'm sorry, YouTube. Somebody want to check LinkedIn or Facebook? Make sure we're live here. You never can be too safe. Tell me if you see something, boys.
Looks like we are.
You are? You're showing something? Well, then I'm not going to check what mine is. Hey, everyone. I am Jim Gast, and we are here on No Law Firm Left Behind. Welcoming today. I've got a bunch of people here. But first, I want to start off with Vinny and Dave, our regulars. Vinny, you weren't here last week. Welcome back.
Thanks.
We missed you. Dave did a great job, actually. Fantastic job at documenting.
Finally.
Oh, now come on. Modesty. He wears it well, you know. So, we're also joined with a couple of other people here today. I've got Don Dotson. I've got Paul Gable and Tony Molina. They're part of our team at SpliceNet, guys. How you doing?
All right.
Well,
Tony, you've been through hell lately, so we're glad to have you back.
it's good to be back.
Oh, man. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But so today we're here. Dave, you want to talk about why we're here today specifically?
So we're here today to talk about how do you go about showing the people that you rely on, your staff, that they actually matter to you. And some of the things that we're going to touch on have always sort of been ways to show your staff that you care, but there are some new situations now that are presented to pretty much everybody. And as an employer, you need to have some flexibility, and you need to introduce some new concepts into your HR, if you will, and just being a good person that shows your staff that, hey, we understand it's a new world, and we're going to work with you on that.
And I would say I'd add the motivations for it are just as important. You know, you don't just do it to be competitive. You do it because, you know, it's just what has to be done nowadays, right? You need to be compassionate and caring about people more than ever, especially in certain situations we're going to talk about. So, Vinny, can you talk about why No Law Firm Left Behind is here in general and how this kind of fits in?
Sure. So No Law Firm Left Behind was started right when COVID started impacting the country. And, you know, the concept behind it is, and was and continues to be, keeping your firm competitive, keeping your firm productive, and keeping your clients calling and keeping new clients coming in. And so we do, our show is based on topics that really relate to how do we do that after COVID now, or even, during the pandemic over the summer and such.
Right. And you want to talk about that little thing next to Dave's head today. Dave, try not to hit that. You might get bruised.
I was going to say you're going to poke your eye. So that's the link tree, right? If you want to connect with us on LinkedIn or on Facebook or follow us on YouTube, you can go ahead and select that, or take a picture of that with your phone. Most phones now will automatically detect that QR code and take you to the link. If you don't have a modern phone, you can use an app like Red Laser or something like that. But we also have new podcasts that we have available as well.
Yeah.
Are they on Linktree now as well?
So I just put the Audible link on Linktree, but Apple Podcast, Spotify, Pandora, everywhere we're at is on the Linktree link, or you can just go search No Law Firm Left Behind on any of those platforms.
All right.
So, yeah, and we're starting to catch up. And the cool thing about the podcast is obviously this is a live stream show with video. There's a link. Now we're starting to put the links in the podcasts. So if you want to go back and catch the live stream and see like a demo of something, because we do a lot of demos, there's still value in just listening to it on podcast. But sometimes if you say, what are they talking about? I really want to see that.
Right.
You can link from the podcast to the actual YouTube video. So, well, we're joined by our crew today, guys. We really appreciate you being here. We can't thank you enough. So what we're going to talk about here is some of the creative things that you guys, this is not me and Dave and Vinny's show today. It's actually kind of like your show. We're really curious, and we like your input, and we think the audience would really enjoy your input on the creative things that you've seen us do or other businesses and firms do to show their staff appreciation, especially during COVID, and how that can, help right now and kind of how they might be able to keep it going after COVID. So Dave,
So before we get started, before we get started, I just want to say none of this is scripted.
No,
we didn't even tell the guys the questions before they started. So
Yeah.
we're kind of putting them on the spot. And
right before the show. We told them right before the show. You know what I mean?
We want it to be real. So
yeah. So which one of you guys raise your hand if who wants to go first, or just start talking? I'm just kind of curious. Or I'll pick.
I'll start.
Go for it, Paul.
I think
Paul, do us a favor. And what we'd like to know. Introduce yourself. And talk about how long you've been with SpliceNet.
And take that hat off.
Yeah.
Oh, no, please don't.
My name is Paul Gable. I've been with SpliceNet now going to be 6 years in May. Mm-hmm. And I'm one of the senior network engineers. We handle pretty much anything and everything that comes our way. We all have our own specialties, but we also work together well as a team to try to not only enhance our strengths, but also build up things that we each individually can be weak on sometimes. Yeah. So one of the creative things I think is that we're able to work together. We typically, when we're in the office, we're all in one central area, at least the technicians are, and our superiors, Jim, Dave, and Vinny, are usually either a phone call away or just right down the hall.
Did he call us a superior, Dave?
I know what he means.
I do too, but
it just means we're larger than them.
Larger than life.
Yes. Well, I think one of the things that we've had to do, obviously, this production is one of them, is to be creative, to be able to, how can we better reach our customers? How can we better take care of ourselves as individuals and as the company? This whole pandemic has thrown a lot of complicated things our way, as far as how we're taking care of our families as well. So, for a while we were working from home strictly, and then we filtered back in the office. And, as we experience this, how do we maintain our links to each other? And, one of the things that Vinny brought in the last couple of months was we're having a standing morning meeting. So every day we at least talk to each other for 15, 20 minutes. And that helps us, regardless of where we're at. We can be sitting at home like we are right now, or we can all be in the office, or a mixture of those, and say, okay, hey, here's what's going on for the day. Here's how we can make sure we're taking care of our priorities and, balance things out as best we can.
It's hard to make sometimes, isn't it?
Yes. So being able to work from home where we're not having to, especially on a day like today, we've got 6 inches of snow on the ground.
You got 6? I think I have 10.
Oh, congratulations.
Good news. My Amazon guy is going to be able to make his delivery today.
You need a new ruler.
He's using the guy ruler.
Yeah. Well, being able to use the technology that we have and the communications tools that we have, we're not necessarily stuck to our particular desk. I can be working from home. I can be working in my office. Or if, comes in a pinch, I may be at a customer site. Say I finished there and I've got something that pops up. Well, I can, as long as I've got a spot to work, sit down, connect with my wireless connection, and be able to take care of the things I need to.
So can I paraphrase?
Please.
So a way to show, and again, it's about staff appreciation, right? And I would think that a way to paraphrase that in my mind is things are changing so fast, to have that ability to work from home, right? Or work from anywhere right now. That in and of itself, and to be flexible with it, is a way to show appreciation.
Right. Yeah. And, we don't, at SpliceNet, we're not necessarily always locked into, particular times that we have to do things. We maintain your regular office hours, but I think when time comes where someone has a doctor's visit or has to take care of family or so on and so forth, we have the ability and the time to be able to say, hey, I need a breakaway to do XYZ, or I'm doing whatever. And I think that shows the appreciation, knowing that we've built up the trust with our employers, with the people that we work with. Say, hey, I know I've got things going on, but I also have, my life to have to deal with too.
I'd like everybody to add on to this, because I'm going to say something that none of you are expecting. So last week, as a leader of our company, of SpliceNet, we are really busy right now. That's a good problem to have, right? And so last week, I pulled back on the remote working for the next 30 days because I wanted us together as a team to be, in the same place, being cohesive, collaborating, and so on and so forth. Would anybody like to talk about how that made them feel? It's fine if you want to.
Oh, I think we're a bit under the gun, and we knew it coming into that meeting. We know that we've had a lot going on, a change in staff, and some illness and whatnot certainly didn't help, but we're far from being the only company that's gone through that.
But how did it feel? I mean, somebody be raw here, be real, please. I'm not saying you're not, Paul, but how did it feel when I said no working from remote for the next 30 days?
For a guy that lives an hour away for a commute, I thought it sucked.
Yeah, it did. It did, didn't it, Paul?
Yes. That's
it certainly put constraints on things, especially during the pandemic, having the ability to, work from home where maybe we're a little to the client and things like that. It definitely felt like counterproductive almost.
What did it do to morale?
Did not help.
Didn't help, did it? Didn't help.
No,
That's why we lifted it again. Hey, we made a mistake. I made a mistake. Vinny and Dave, pushed back and said, hey, we got to change this. We got to change this. I said, you know what? You guys are right. And here we are today. I called us off this morning. You know what I mean? So it was the wrong call. It was the right thing to have us be able to do that. It boosted morale. We didn't do it enough, right? And now it's almost like going to be a mandate moving forward that we have to do it once a week. Of course, I think every business has to have its own guidelines on that, right? But I think your point stands really well, Paul. And the fact that when it was stopped for whatever reason, for right or for wrong, the morale just went tanked. Dave, you got something to say? I know you do.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. You don't unring this bell.
Yeah.
People have gotten a taste, and for so long pre-pandemic, the argument against remote work was, it'll never work. It just won't work. We won't be productive, et cetera, et cetera. Statistics show that's garbage. Yeah. Productivity's up across places that have adopted work from home. Employers have been forced to acknowledge that it works. And so now we're in a position, by we're, I mean all business owners, large, small, medium, etc. Even as things sort of go back to normal and people could return to the office full time, do you think people are going to happily do this? No, this has changed the way that a lot of people expect to be able to work going forward. It wasn't something that was planned, but that's the world we live in now. And so, whereas, a year ago at SpliceNet, yes, in certain circumstances, we've always been flexible if somebody has something going on. But now, if we were to take that flexibility away now, it stings at a whole different level.
Yes, it does.
And so I think employers need to be very cognizant that as vaccines roll out, as 2020 fades into the rearview mirror slightly, as we could try to start going back to how things were, it might not be a very good idea to do it.
You can't pull back. Like you said, you can't unring the bell.
Right.
You're going to have to unring the bell on certain things, but there are some things you just can't unring the bell.
We'll eventually settle into some kind of new routine. But just think that you're going to flip that switch back and say, oh, yeah, all that flexibility you've had for the last 12 months, yeah, that's gone now.
Yeah.
It's a very bad idea.
Yeah, I
want to move on. Go ahead.
So just like, my name is Tony. I'm the customer care manager. I'm going to just talk a little bit about this remote working. I had COVID, and I had COVID really bad. And
my name's Tony. I had COVID. Hi, Tony.
I want to just point out one of the things about remote access, the remote working, and years past. I've been here 7 years. It'd be the middle of this year, and one of the things that I appreciate and grateful for is now that Jim and Dave and Vinny allow us to do this remote access, because even when you're sick and you have to quarantine, you can still chime in with your team and not be completely out. Before, you had to take a sick day. Well, you weren't allowed to work. You weren't, you stayed away.
Remember, it used to be, if you got the flu, please don't come into the office. Kind of.
Right.
That's how it became.
Yeah, and now you can still interact and help out your teammates, and your teammates helped out my teammates helped out me while I was out.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just, I don't mean to interject this, but I'm gonna. Well, I guess I do mean to interject it. By opening up the idea of working remote is like, in a lot of ways, it takes some of the pressure off somebody who might be getting sick and still able to work, from feeling that pressure of coming to the office and getting the rest of the office sick, which is always, for a small business, if somebody walks in with the flu and gives it to all of us, that could be devastating.
Well, we had that. Let's just be honest. I was down. Tony was down.
January was tough.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Don was quarantined. Tony was out. And you were out. So
yeah. It was a
rough January.
But no, you're right. You're right. And Tony, you mentioned something before the show about how you were really down and out with COVID. I mean, you were not that no one else was, but I mean, you had it bad, right? Of everybody I know, next to my mom, of course, you had it bad, and so how was it with your teammates during that time?
They took care of me.
Couldn't work.
I couldn't work. They took care of me. They took care of our customers, the customers that I had scheduled and bookings with. They covered me. Every one of you all covered me to make sure that our customers also came first.
Yeah.
And I really was very appreciative of that.
That guy in the lower right corner on my screen, Vinny, made all the shuffling, right? And he worked with Don and Paul and Dave to make it happen, okay? But as your leader down there, okay? I guess I'm pointing it right. Your leader down there, I can never get it right. I'm backwards. The leader down there, he knew how to make that happen. And it was twofold. One, to loosen the pressure off you so you didn't have to think about it, right? Some places will say, hey, if you're going to be out, you got to find somebody to cover your stuff, right? And so maybe a way to show appreciation for our, everybody watching the show is to your staff is to make sure they don't have to find their coverage, right? There's a process or at least you do it ad hoc and somebody gets all that stuff covered. So that person who is really sick, doesn't have to sweat it, doesn't have to think about it. You know what I mean? I think that's a valid point, Tony. And the other thing is, nobody made anybody call you during those down and out times, Tony. When you got those calls, that was everybody's own volition, That's another way. If your staff isn't like that, remind them, gentle reminders. Hey guys, we got a guy down and out or girl down and out. Why don't you guys just shoot her an email, shoot her a text, give her a call, let her know we're thinking about her, make sure they're okay, And hopefully it made you feel a little bit better.
It did. And every one of y'all did. And I see that also that we could chat back and forth.
Yeah. What's that? You did what?
Using Teams.
Oh yeah.
Chat back and forth.
Yeah. Well, you should have been resting most of the time, but it was nice to hear from you when we did. I got to tell you, the way I feel about these guys, and I've told them all, and I'll say it again, I'll say it over and over again. And if you don't feel this way about your staff, I love these guys. Okay. They're my work brothers. And quite honestly, Every one of them are important to me. Everything that's going on in their life, from the smallest to the biggest thing. And it should be that way in a great team, right? So fostering a team atmosphere as an owner, as a manager, as a team member, right, is a great way to show appreciation. And that should never stop. That should always be done. You guys think?
Yes.
Agreed.
That's the way we get stuff done. Now, Don, you had probably the funniest one that you came up with, and I loved it. And so, what is one of those things that you've seen? And of course, it has a technology twist, which is just ironic, right? Not really ironic, but just kind of works perfect. What to show appreciation to your teammates, to the people that you work with now, and should go on.
Yeah. Well, really goes back to about building that camaraderie. We're not just coworkers. We actually care about each other. We like to joke around and play around, and that goes a long way. If an employee can relate, to a boss or to an owner, they're always going to feel like when you ask them a question, it's going to come off more as I have genuine interest, as opposed to I'm just doing this to try and make you feel better.
Mm.
It adds that genuine. And one of the things that happens a lot at work is somebody will say something in our team's chat, and then suddenly there's a barrage of memes and jokes to go along with it. And it's I don't know if I've ever told you this, Jim, but I was at a client once working, and that happened, and just to kind of give you an idea that the amount of joking that sometimes can go on. One of the guys that was working with there with the other company, he looked over and goes, "Does your phone always do that with Teams?" And I said, "Well, sometimes." But it is good and it's refreshing, especially gives you that break. It was Rob, by the way, if you're curious.
What was it?
It was Rob.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
So yeah, it's just a great way of relating to employees to build that camaraderie. So when somebody says, "Hey, how's your kids?" I don't feel like it's just a question that's being asked to make me think that you care. I actually think that you care. It comes across a lot more genuine when you can relate to an employer and an employee that way. So.
Yeah, good job faking it, Dave. You're really good like that. Kidding. We cut up a lot of times. And so those memes that you can do in Microsoft Teams, by the way, okay, so shameless plug, this is why you should use Teams over Zoom any day. And then is the ongoing ability to chat back and forth all day long, productive chat, and then team building chat, right? When we play around like that, that's like talking around the coffee, the coffee machine or the water cooler, right? It's the digital water cooler for us sometimes. It's also very useful. Hey, who knows about X, Y, and Z? Very serious stuff. But at the same time, that same channel that we use for communication in there can be very team building, right? And if I make a joke, or Dave or any one of us make a joke, we all know it's because, well, they care. You know what I mean? And so we all pile on Dave, or we all pile on me almost all the time. It's inevitable. Right? Everybody beats us up, and we know it. And you know what? I know love. What's that?
We all get our turns.
Yeah, we all get our turns. I think you got one this morning, didn't you, Paul? Yeah. So, this whole thing is about team building, right? The only reason you would show staff appreciation is because, well, one, they're people, right? I mean, we're all people here. We all have things going on. We should all treat each other with care, right? I like to call it love, but it's care if you don't want to use the word love if we're too macho, right? That's the number one thing, right? The people you work with matter. We spend 8 hours a day minimum. Right now we're spending 9 sometimes, together. And after hours. Oh my gosh, I didn't even mention it. What's it feel like when one of you guys are doing some after hours work and you can reach somebody on Teams after hours? How does that make you feel?
Or even on the phone, there have been 3 and 4 a.m. calls.
Yeah. Having been in the reverse situation where, you're on site and you can't get a hold of anybody, knowing that Teams is right there and that there is a 99% chance that you're going to get a response. it just puts you at ease. You know, you're not out there going, oh God, what if I run into a problem? You're not thinking about that because you're like, if I run into a problem, somebody will help me.
You're never alone.
Nice.
You're never alone. I mean, you know that, and this didn't mean, I didn't want this to turn into a work from home or Teams or anything at all. That's not the goal. This is how we are showing appreciation to each other, how we're trying to work together to make a better team and better work environment for everybody. But it just so happens the technology plays right into that now, right? Every one of us have mentioned some piece of technology. I'm glad that Teams is such a great tool, and we actually thank you, Vinny. Who did that? Was that Vinny? Yeah. Vinny goes, 5-minute warning, 5-minute warning. And guess how he did that? Would anybody like to say?
Team.
So no, in all honesty though, it is about, I've been in those situations where you've got a server that's down. Vinny, you had that situation years ago when you worked for us where you were rebuilding a server for an entire freaking weekend. Remember that? And we didn't have Teams back then, did we? What did we have back then? You're muted. You're muted, Vinny. There you go. No, you're.
Yep, there it goes.
There you go. What did we have back then?
Back then it was Skype, like Skype for business type stuff.
Yeah. Did we use Skype or were we on the phone, Dave? Do you remember?
I don't remember last week.
That's when he bought the pizzas, remember? Vinny's
did,
buying the pizzas at the one place.
Yeah, we did talk on the phone, but
Yeah, we did.
Back then it was mostly Skype.
Yeah, Skype was not what Teams
Type
is.
and text.
Yeah, Skype and text. No, when I've been in places where it's like 2:00 in the morning on a Saturday night, and you've got nobody to turn to, and you've got to figure it all out on your own. It goes like that for every business, you know. When you just you're working on something and you just feel like you're alone. That's where this team comes in, your team. So, look, I'm going to call it short today, guys. So we were gonna do Microsoft Teams actually today, and we changed up a little bit because I thought it was really important. I had a kind of a thought after what happened last week, and it played out really well because we're all remote today because of the snow.
We turn it into the PlaceNet team.
Huh?
Turn it into the PlaceNet team.
You got it. And so next week, now Don and Tony and Paul, you're welcome to join us anytime. You know that. But me and Dave and Vinny, at least two of us will be talking about Microsoft Teams and some of the new functionality next week, which plays kind of a nice segue into next week after today. Some of those new functionalities we're not even talking about, guys. We're not even using them, but it's pretty cool. So that's what I got, guys. Any last comments, Vinny, Dave?
No, just thanks, guys. I appreciate you joining this week.
Oh,
I do.
yeah.
Get your appreciation.
It was, yeah. Well, we went to lunch yesterday. Had a good time. Tony, we missed you. You'll be very unhappy to know that we went to O'Charlie's yesterday for lunch.
Oh,
Yeah.
not B-dubs?
No, we skipped that. But it wasn't Free Pie Wednesday, so maybe we'll catch that when you get back.
Okay.
So
sounds
you
like
did miss this breakdown over the switch from Pepsi to Coke.
Oh my gosh. We don't want to go into that. That's a whole nother show, another day. So
wow.
listen, thanks a lot, everybody, for watching us on No Law Firm Left Behind. We appreciate you joining us. Next, remember, we're here every Tuesday, 10:30. Not this week, it wasn't 10:30, but typically we're here every week, 10:30 Eastern. This being the one exception, I think, for a long time. So again, if you need to find us, you can hit the QR code, or by all means, here's the link to our No Law Firm Left Behind channel on LinkedIn. Dave, could you sing the link for us?
Sir.
One day you're going to sing that link.
No, I want everyone to figure it out on their own.
So Dave came up with the idea, since it's an ugly link. He said, well, it sounds like Jenny, I Got Your Number song, 867-5309. And I'm like, we're trying to get him to sing it. One day we're going to get him to sing it. So,
But it's going through everybody's head right now.
oh, you know it is. How can I make that an 867-5309? All right, guys, thanks a lot. Sit tight, guys. Don't disconnect. That's the crew here. And everyone else, we'll see you next week. Take care.
All right.
Have a great week.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.